He's a member of the Foreign Relations Committee and a former U.S. trade representative. And during the press conference, President Trump wanted to end it by talking about a family that you know well, the Warmbiers, and paying tribute to the late Otto Warmbier. Your thoughts on that, Senator Portman?
Well, I was glad to hear it. I was with the Warmbiers last weekend, and as you know, I spent about 18 months trying to bring Otto Warmbier home and bring him home in a safe and healthy condition. That was not at the end possible because he was imprisoned by the North Koreans inappropriately, illegally, in my view, and then he was allowed for 16 months to be in a vegetative state without them telling us. At the whole time I was meeting with North Koreans, I was trying to get him back, and so it tells me two things, Dana. One is the nature of the regime, and there's a certain evil there when you think about what they did to Otto Warmbier. And then second, the need for direct negotiations and direct diplomacy, and that's why I support this summit. And I was glad the president mentioned Otto Warmbier because it reminds us of some of the huge challenges we have with this regime. But also, to me, it reminds us of the need for us to talk directly, because we did not have those kinds of communication with regard to Otto, and I think he would have potentially been able to have avoided being in the state he was if we'd had direct talks and direct diplomacy. Right. So,
well, perhaps that is a door now that is open, and as President Trump said, our people are now back from that horrible situation, the three doing well.
Right.
Let me also ask you about something else. The press asked him, and this is a question on everyone's mind. So you've got the Iran nuclear deal that the president is now going to, he's out of it. The United States is out of it. We had the North Korea negotiations ongoing, but your committee yesterday unveiled something pretty shocking about the Iran deal that we didn't know before. How do you see all of this as from a bigger picture perspective rather than just individually?
Well, it's a great lesson. Yesterday we were able to issue a report after almost 2 years of work saying that the Obama administration misled Congress, misled the American people on allowing the Iranians to have access to the U.S. financial system in connection with the Iran agreement. It's a long story and a somewhat complicated one, but the reality is they came, they testified, they said they weren't allowing the sanctions to be broken, meaning that there would be no access to the U.S. financial system, and yet they offered it to the Iranians. In the end, the U.S. banks refused. But the point is there was not transparency. The American people didn't know about it. Congress didn't know about it. There would have been, a lot of concern about that, deep concern. So the lesson there is, with regard to a future Iran agreement or an agreement with North Korea, let's be sure this is all on the up and up, that we have transparency, that we're being told about what's going on, that if sanctions are not to be released, maximum pressure, I think, should continue to be applied, by the way, during this period. The American people deserve to know. Second, I think it shows us the difficulty of putting these agreements together. The other side will push back hard, no question about it, as Iran did. They were frustrated and angry with the Obama administration, and they essentially bowed to that pressure and allowed them to have access through a license they shouldn't have had. So I think we have to be very, very cautious going into it, but I'm glad we're having the meeting, and I'm very hopeful.
Senator Rob Portman, thanks for being here today. Thanks for joining us. A busy